Barbarian, the work conjures images of fur-clad warriors burning villages, screaming hordes descending on civilization. This is what we think we know. Savage nomads wandering the wilderness, waiting to destroy everything Rome built, but almost everything in that image is wrong, and the main person who told us about these people never actually met one. Let's look at what the evidence actually shows. Start with what we can dig up, literally. Archaeologists have excavated Germanic grave sites spanning multiple generations, same families, same locations, century after century. These weren't wandering nomads. They were settled agricultural communities with permanent villages. And here's what makes those graves fascinating. Roman goods, wine amphorae, bronze vessels, glass beads, silver coins. These items didn't arrive through raiding alone. Trade routes connected Germanic settlements to Roman cities like Cologne and Mainz. We're looking at sustained economic relationships, not occasional plunder. The physical evidence reveals peoples who were geographically stable and commercially connected to the empire they supposedly destroyed. Beyond trade goods, Germanic metalworkers produced sophisticated ironwork. Pattern-welded swords required techniques Roman smiths respected. These weren't primitive peoples scratching out survival. They possessed real technological skill. So where did our image of savage barbarians come from? Written sources, and our main written source is a Roman historian named Tacitus. Around 100 CE, he wrote a text called Germania, describing the Germanic peoples north of the Rhine. For centuries, scholars treated this as reliable ethnography. There's just one problem. Tacitus never visited Germanic lands, never intended to. The concept of fieldwork didn't exist. He compiled secondhand reports and shaped them to his purpose. That purpose wasn't documenting foreign cultures. Tacitus wrote to criticize Roman society. The Germans in his text are a mirror reflecting everything Romans had supposedly lost. He describes them as brave, honorable, sexually conventional, devoted to family. Sound familiar? It's the noble savage trope, ancient version. Germans represent uncorrupted virtue, while decadent Romans wallow in luxury and vice. But Tacitus also assigns Germanic peoples primitive vices. They're lazy, they drink too much, they gamble compulsively. Every detail serves his moral argument. We're not reading objective observation. Right? We're reading Roman social commentary dressed up as geography. This is our primary source for understanding these peoples. Despite his agenda, Tacitus describes social institutions that later sources confirm were real. Let's examine how these societies actually functioned. First, the Comitatus, warrior bands. These weren't bodyguards following orders. They were autonomous followers bound to leaders through personal loyalty. A leader maintained power through generosity and success in war. Followers expected gifts, feasts, and victories, failed to deliver, and they'd find another leader. Think of it like vassals, though that term comes centuries later. Mutual obligations, not servitude. Second institution, the Feuds system. In societies without central government, who enforces the law? Your family does. Germanic peoples organized into clans, roughly 50 households connected by blood. You knew your second and third cousins. Their interests were your interests. If someone outside your clan harmed you, your entire kinship network was obligated to retaliate, and this knowledge prevented most violence. Why attack someone when you know 50 households will come for revenge? Within clans, feuding was prohibited. Conflicts went to family councils. Between clans, the threat of retaliation maintained order. This isn't chaos. It's a legal system built on kinship rather than courts. The clan structure provided protection, identity, and justice in the absence of centralized authority. But endless feuding destroys communities. So Germanic societies developed Wergeld, literally man payment, compensation for killing. Here's how it worked. Kill someone, and instead of triggering a blood feud, you could pay their family. The amount depended on the victim's status. A silversmith's life cost more than an ordinary free person's. A freed slave's life cost less. The Burgundian Code, written after Germanic peoples entered the empire, preserves these scales. This isn't primitive justice. It's sophisticated legal thinking. Different lives carry different economic value based on skills and status. Sound familiar? Modern lawsuits calculate damages the same way. Wergeld prevented cycles of violence through negotiated compensation. 3 institutions, Comitatus, clan-based justice, Wergeld, reveal societies with organized legal frameworks, not the chaos our stereotypes suggest. The Comitatus would evolve into medieval vassalage. Clan structures persisted for centuries in Germanic law codes. Wergeld payments appear throughout early medieval legal texts. These weren't temporary arrangements that vanished when Rome fell. They were durable institutions that shaped European society for 1,000 years. The barbarians brought functioning social systems, not just swords. Understanding this changes how we interpret what happened to Rome. Let's return to our opening image, savage nomads versus settled reality. The evidence contradicts nearly every assumption. Nomadic wanderers, archaeological sites show multi-generational villages, primitive technology, skilled iron workers who traded extensively with Rome. Lawless chaos, Wergeld, clan law, and comitatus structure provided order. Isolated from civilization, Roman goods fill their graves, trade routes connected their settlements to imperial cities, destroyed Rome, more accurately, transformed and merged with Roman society. The peoples we call barbarians weren't the opposite of Rome. They were already connected to it through trade, diplomacy, and centuries of contact along the frontier. The boundary was always more porous than our categories suggest. So what does this mean for understanding Rome's fall? If these weren't primitive nomads, but peoples with legal systems, trade networks, and stable communities, the fall looks different. Less like destruction by outsiders, more like transformation through integration. Germanic leaders often served as Roman generals before leading their own kingdoms. They admired Roman culture, adopted Roman administrative practices, and preserved Roman institutions where useful. The line between Roman and barbarian blurred long before the empire officially ended. One historian called Rome's fall suicide by accident, a political problem, not an inevitable clash between civilization and savagery. Next time you encounter barbarian invasions, ask, whose perspective is this? What evidence supports it? Our main written source never visited the peoples he described and wrote to criticize his own society. The archaeological record tells a different story, one of settled communities, sophisticated craftsmanship, and sustained connections to the empire. The barbarians weren't waiting in the wilderness to destroy Rome. In many ways, they were already part of its world.